Hi there, it's Kevin with RogueDeckBuilder.com here with kind of a little ranty video just after playing Modern lately, post Splinter Twin ban and post the Eldrazi taking over Modern and what it's done to the format. And maybe it'll just get better, maybe I'm just being a little bit... I've played probably 10 to 15 days or leagues with a variety of different decks in Modern, with in mind right now just to really combat Eye of Ugin decks and the Eldrazi. And I've noticed something about the format that has happened because of Eldrazi, but I think it's actually happened more because of Splinter Twin ban. And I really thought the Splinter Twin would have been a good thing for the metagame, and now the more and more I play this Modern metagame, the more I hate it. And hate is an understatement of how much I despise Modern right now. So we all know how insane it is to go up against the first turn Eye of Ugin, second turn Eldrazi Temple draw, or first turn Eye of Ugin, second turn Urborg to Yawgmoth draw, where they can just literally spit out their entire hand and even attack in for lethal on turn number 3, and if not lethal on turn number 3, at least control you out with Thought-Knot Seers by turn number 2 and turn number 3 with this draw, especially when they go the Eldrazi Mimic. And Eye is clear that it has to go. The dominance of the Modern metagame, we'll show you that in a minute, is just it's like almost 50% of the decks, I swear, are Eldrazi decks. And then the next 50% is a category that I despise just as much, which is either hyper aggressive decks or non-interactive decks. And we're actually starting to see a lot more non-interactive decks. And so this video is going to be my top 3 cards that I personally want to see banned when we have the Shadows over Innistrad ban announcement. Now, number 1, of course, is going to be Eye of Ugin. You have it right here. It's people are anticipating the ban. That's why it's going way down in price. In fact, on eBay and TCG, you can find Eye of Ugins for our next to nothing. $11 is the lowest one on TCG, and eBay. Not seeing the eBay ones, but they're down to like $9 right now, I think. And you can just see the dominance of all these Eldrazi decks. But the good news is the Eldrazi players can still play in Legacy. I mean, yeah, of course you have to spend a lot more money, and it's a lot more fair in Legacy with decks like Wasteland, and just the metagame in Legacy can actually combat a first turn Eye of Ugin. Modern cannot do so. The best we have is Ghost Quarters, which is just every time I try to use like Ghost Quarters or Tectonic Edge or Fulminator Mage, it's actually putting yourself behind on the Eldrazi's. Because they've already pushed out some early drops like Endless One or Eldrazi Mimic, and then you're just so far behind. So I hate that game plan. So I think we're all in agreement here. Eye of Ugin needs to go. I'm okay with keeping in the Eldrazi Temple. I think that we shouldn't just, first of all, just kill the deck. I think that it'd be interesting just to have the temples and see if that's enough to push the Eldrazi Tribal still into Modern. I don't think it will be. I think the deck will just die. So I don't think there's any it's not necessary to ban the Eldrazi Temples. So that's my reasoning for one. I think most of us are in agreement. The next 2 categories, I know I'm going to get a lot of hate, so bring on the dislikes. And this one is really just because my local metagame is just insanely full of Infect and Affinity. And usually they beat me because of, well, Infect because of 1 card. So number 2, I suggest hitting Infect. Now, Slip Through Space just made Infect even more annoying, because now we have Blighted Agents that are unblockable. We have Distortion Strikes, which are unblockable. We have the Slip Through Space, the one that gives unblockable and draw a card. So unblockable and enable become immense. I do not like Infect as a mechanic. I think it's the worst mechanic ever printed. I don't think it's a good idea to having damage that cannot be either negated or through life gain or removed. There's no way to remove Infect counters, and it really hampers the ability for future sets to actually have good pump spells, especially good double strike pump spells. Or I'm surprised there haven't been a red Infect deck, a red-green Infect deck rather than, or just Teamer, because the mana base is so easy through like Mana Confluences and City of Brasses and stuff like that, that I think it'd be very easy to put double strike in it, but they just don't need it. That's how efficient Infect is. So you can't ban any of the pump spells to hamper Infect. It's the 2 cards that I hate or Inkmoth Nexus 1, because it's a land that I'll talk about Inkmoth Nexus in a second, but Glistener Elf breaks the modern rule. It is that turn 1 Glistener Elf into a turn 2 kill. And if not a turn 2 kill, you're definitely going to be killing on turn 3. Especially as a turn 1 Noble Hierarch into like a turn 2, either Glistener Elf or Blighted Agent. You're not surviving that turn 3. You are going to die. So, unless they have just a terrible draw. Which, that's another reason why I don't like what we've happened here with the high variance format. High variance decks, like I'll talk about, when I get to my number 1 card, I'll talk about why I just, because decks, even though Infect has got a lot more reliable, it used to be one of those decks that had to mulligan very aggressively. It had a lot of janky hands. What I mean by that is if you had like 3 creatures and not enough pump spells, you probably weren't going to get the job done. It was very vulnerable to disruption and removal. But I would say that Infect is not that case anymore. We had a lot of pros come out and say they hate playing it, but it's just it's the solid deck if you want to play a 10-round tournament or an 8-round tournament. Infect is the way to go because it's just so consistent. And without Eldrazi in the mix, I think that Infect, as we saw with the Pantheon team, 2 Pro Tours in a row playing it, that it's up there in, if not the number 1 deck, it's definitely up there. I mean, it does have some bad matchups. One of the bad matchups was Twin. And now with Twin out of the way, the Inkmoth Nexus decks, Affinity and Infect, can just run wild with this deck. The reason why I kind of suggest Inkmoth Nexus is it wouldn't kill either the deck that it's in. It would just kind of, it would dumb down their power level. And I can't stand an Affinity either, because Affinity is really tough with Inkmoth Nexus being hooked up to a cranial plating. It's very easy if you even have like a Shatterstorm to have the Darksteel Citadel survive, the Inkmoth Nexuses and Blinkmoth Nexuses survive, and then be able to hook up a cranial plating to Inkmoth Nexus and actually even kill on that next turn. That'll be like 5th turn, and you can easily drop enough artifacts and just kill with 1 Inkmoth Nexus swing. So if you compare Inkmoth Nexus to like Mutavault or Blinkmoth Nexus or Nettle Spires or any of the manlands out of Zendikar or Oath or Battle for Zendikar blocks, then Inkmoth is just so much better with its activation, with its evasion, with its infect. It literally like giving a creature a 1/1 double strike and flying on a colorless land. I mean, I'd actually say the Inkmoth Nexus would still be better than that land. That's how powerful the pump spells like the Cranial Platings and the Become Immense have become in Modern. So I would personally like to see Glistener Elf gone more than Inkmoth Nexus, but I think the Inkmoth Nexus hits two birds with one stone, where it's to the point of insanity how much hate you have to bring in for either Infect or Affinity. And it's almost like Spellskite needs to go in every deck just to combat these decks. And I cannot stand running so much. It's the Twin problem all over again. You have to run so much sideboard just to hate out these decks. And it's just one of the cards I think that both archetypes are still fine, and I'd like to see it go. Although, so I've named two things. There's one card that I want gone more than any of these two cards. So more than Eye of Ugin, more than Glistener Elf, Inkmoth Nexus. And that is Simian Spirit Guide. I hate this card. Hate is not a strong enough word. I despise, I abhor, this is not a good card in Modern. It leads to high variance decks. What I mean by high variance decks is they have a very low chance of actually going off, unless they have the stars align and they have the perfect card combination in their hand. Simian Spirit Guide enables 3 decks. One deck I think is fine without it, and I actually like the deck better without it because it's more consistent in my opinion. And 2 decks it enables that are so vulnerable to disruption, so vulnerable to hate, so vulnerable to so many things that it's just annoying when you lose to them. And Simian Spirit, those are Ad Nauseam and Goryo's Vengeance. Simian Spirit Guide will also occasionally go in like an eggs build. I've seen it in, let's just look at the decks it is. You see it in like a Kiln Fiend deck to enable a very quick Kiln Fiend. But Living End's the other one that I just think that it's so broken in because it allows you to do just very degenerate things with being able to cast your Living End quicker and actually fix that mana to find either the Violent Outburst or the Demonic Dread. And you can see it's also being used in Eldrazi, so that's how broken the card is. Dredge, I guess there's some Dredge decks, and then the Gristle Band. It's just going to continue to enable these combo decks, these really degenerate turn 2 and turn 3 combo decks, as long as it's in the format. The more cards printed, the more broken Simian Spirit Guide becomes. If we get to the point where we need to get out like a 2 or a 3 drop that can kill the next turn, and it's in the red colors, you're going to see Simian Spirit Guide go in that deck. And what makes it so inconsistent, I've played it in like a Young Pyromancer deck where you go just crazy on a turn 1 Young Pyromancer and then can go off on turn 2. And the thing is that Simian Spirit Guide actually makes the decks weak and strong, because when you get too many Simian Spirit Guides in your opening hand when you need cards, then you just lose. But if you get just the stars align, that these decks like Living End and Ad Nauseam and Gristlebrand actually do incredibly well. So if I could ban it, I was the Wizard of the Coast, and a lot of people hate this topic because they don't like the ban list, but Modern has stated they do not want turn 3 decks, consistent turn 3 kill decks. Ad Nauseam can be a consistent turn 3 kill. It's one of those stupid hands with Lotus Blooms and Simian Spirit Guides. And also, Ad Nauseam just dies without Simian Spirit Guides. They have to find an alternate win condition, because then you can't discard your 3 Simian Spirit Guides for the lightning, the lightning, whatever it's called, where you discard that many lands and does that much more damage. So how much I hate this card is an understatement. It's something that I think that it would improve the format of Modern, just get rid of. I think that it would actually open up the format a lot more if we didn't have to worry about the one. I just played, the thing I'm so bitchy right now is I just played Martyr Proc, and I was doing so well. In fact, I just went up against these decks. All the decks I'm complaining about, yeah. I was 4 out of 5 of the decks were what I'd consider unfair decks. What I mean by that is uninteractive. They don't care what you're doing. They just care what they're doing. I played a Eggs deck, shut him down with Stony Silence both games. I played, and it was stupid. He just folded to Stony Silence. That was a fun game. Turn 2 Stony Silence, watch him scoop. Yeah, those are the type of decks I just want gone. If you get hated out by one card and you can't recover, just get rid of it. Just get rid of it on Modern. This is dumb. And then, that was game number 1. Game number 2 is Infect. And I just had the Kami of Ancient Law lock on one of the games, so you couldn't get around that. What I mean by that is you just keep returning Kami of Ancient Law each turn. And I was able one of the games just to completely get out. Got very lucky. He got me up to 9 Infect one game. And the next game I had just unlimited blockers, and you bring in Ghostly Prison. I think it was Ghostly Prison that got him, and then that stalled the game enough for the Kami of Ancient Law lock. And Infect's a little bit easier to interact with. I mean, it feels more interactive than most of the unfair decks. And then game number 3 was another combo deck that I shut down. I gotta think now. I just barely played it, and I can't even remember what it was. But I think it was another. Oh, it was Living End. Yeah, so it was another Living End deck that I had to play, and had to I think it was a Nile Spellbomb or something that I ended up. And then Martyrs are just a pain for that deck to play. And then I played against the Wiltleaf Leech deck, which is probably the most fair deck in the entire world, because it's just trying to cast creatures and outvalue people with creatures. And then my final, I was 4-0 at that point, and then lost to Ad Nauseam with the God Draw both games. Actually, well, game number 1, he double Lotus Petaled me, or Lotus Bloomed me, and went off on turn 3. And then second game, I got rid of his Laboratory Maniac through a card, Hide Seek is what it's called, and so he couldn't go to Laboratory Maniac, and I was hoping to draw Martyr to get above I think they can do 32 life, maybe 36 if it's all perfect, with the Ad Nauseam, and I was just hoping that I could get a Martyr, 2-drop a Martyr somehow to gain enough life, because I was already up against pretty good life with the Hide Seek finding his Laboratory Maniac, already up to like 24 life, and just need a few more life, and yeah, but I could not find that Martyr or find another hate card. I had him locked out with Stony Silence. But that's just my little grievance here. I just do not like this card. I do not like any. I want an interactive, fun, modern. I think that's where I kind of miss Twin, because some of the Twin decks, once you shut down the combo, were really long, grindy, fun, interactive games. Like, one of my favorite matchups was Skred versus Twin, because you really had to outplay your opponent, because he can't combo against Skred. It's very hard for them, and so it turned into like this value-based deck, and you just had to kind of play this cat and mouse game with each other, that trying to bait out their counter spells on things you didn't necessarily need, and save your own removal for things that you had to remove. And same thing with Soul Sisters. Once I would shut down Twins combo, it actually did feel like a nice little interactive game. So I don't know, that's my top 3 list. I'm interested in hearing your top 3 if you have any arguments. I know I'm going to get a lot of dislikes for this. I hope my reasoning has been pretty sound. But as stated, when they made Modern, we have a format that abuses these combo decks. It's called Legacy. So if people like to play coin flips, which is literally what these decks are, is coin flips, you might as well roll a damn dice or flip a damn coin. I mean, I just can't stand. You don't play Magic. You just watch your opponent, go off or fold to a hate card. And so it's these coin flip decks, and we have a format. We have Belcher. We have Storm in Legacy. We have a bunch of these decks that just... I have a deck called Cheerios that doesn't give a crap what you're doing and actually can play through one counterspell, it does fold pretty bad to a Force of Will, but if they don't have a Force of Will, if I'm going against like Death and Taxes or Goblins or Elves or anything, they're dead 35% of the time on turn number 1, and then it goes up by turn number 2 if I can actually wait till turn number 2 against a deck. And it's just such a ridiculous format. That's why I hate Legacy. That's why I don't play it. And I just want a good modern format where we're not just plagued by these high variance coin flip decks. So that's my suggestion. I think that banning these 3 cards make the health of the format a lot better, or otherwise we're going to have to figure out, well, once Eldrazi goes away, though, we might actually see a lot of these decks like Ad Nauseam and Infect, and these decks start getting hated out by the tempo decks, because the tempo decks get murdered by the Eye of Ugin decks. And so right now we're not seeing Jund and Delver and Abzan Jund and like Grixis Delve and all those type of decks, or white, red, blue control or tempo. All those decks are completely obsolete. Let's just check out the metagame really quickly. So with Modern, and you'll be able to see that the only decks that exist right now are combo decks, hyper-aggressive decks, and Eldrazi. So we have Eldrazi, which 118 U white, 15% is this one flavor of Eldrazi, red-green Eldrazi, Affinity, because it can race Eldrazi, Absent Company, because it can combo out past Eldrazi, Living End, because it can combo out before Eldrazi, another UR Eldrazi, Infect, because it can race Eldrazi, Colorless Eldrazi, Merfolk, because it can shut down Eldrazi, which I would say is the most fair deck in this. And then some very, very this could be some leftover decks, because I think the MTG Goldfish runs like a month worth of statistics, so this is just some leftover Jund, or just some people being incredibly stubborn, because Jund is just terrible in this metagame. And then another red-green Eldrazi. Then Scapeshift, which gets shut down by Thought-Knots here quite easily. And then we have another Eldrazi, a red-white Eldrazi, which is the new flavor of the week, which is back to running Stony Silences to shut down Affinity. So if we look at this too, all the ones that have been successful: Storm, which doesn't interact with anyone; Goblins, which is a hyper-aggressive deck; Infect, what's this 3-colored deck here? Bring it up. Oh, another Eldrazi. Never mind. We won't even look at that one. So that's actually an Eldrazi deck. We actually do have a Mardu Vengeance deck. Oh, that's Goryo's Vengeance, so a combo deck. Blue-white Control, which is just trying to all-out control Eldrazi. They can escape by, but there's no way they can beat the God Drive Eldrazi. Lantern Control, which is another non-interactive deck. Oh, man. I hate Modern. I just wish I had a format to play in. Looking forward to Shadows of Innistrad, because I can't stand Standard at the moment. Standard is just good stuff deck. Once we get the Fetch, Cleanse, and Siege run out of the format, I'm thinking that we can... I'm loving Shadows of Innistrad. In fact, I'll do a video of the newest spoilers here. So here's my little ranty video for the week. Bring on the dislikes, bring on the comments. It's just one man's opinion. I'm not Wiz of the Coast, so don't cry about this. I have no control over this, no control over what they ban, but I hope I've at least had some solid reasoning for the cards that I want gone. What are your lists? I'd love to hear them in the comments section below. This is Kevin with RogueDeckBuilder.com. Thanks for watching.